So welcome to the 8th meeting of the Big West Rotaract Club. Every 2 weeks, we hear from speakers who tell us about their inspirational stories, expertise in their field, or how they are finding innovative solutions to our world's most pressing challenges. My name is Jane Kwan, and I am president of this club. This week, we have Brandon CHROSTOWSKI, who will talk to us about EDWINS Leadership and Restaurant Institute, a unique approach at giving formerly incarcerated adults a foundation in the hospitality industry while providing a support network necessary for successful reentry. Without further ado, here is Brandon.
All right. Thank you, Jay, for having me. I haven't done one of these to a crowd yet via the computer, so I can't really gauge the energy in the room because it's just this. In any event, my name is Brandon CHROSTOWSKI, as you said, founder, president, CEO, EDWINS Leadership and Restaurant Institute, which is a nonprofit here in Cleveland, Ohio, that really was born out of a break I received when I was younger, and really transformed into this now. This is quite a big operation when it comes to the reentry world, or for that matter, any culinary driven world. So I always go back to my story. I want to cover a couple of things. One, how it became this thing. Two, what is it exactly? And three, where the heck is it going? Where are we traveling to? So first and foremost, when I was 18, I got thrown in jail. It was a county jail, and I was facing about five to 10 years in prison, where this judge, when I was arraigned and sentenced, ready for sentencing, said, "I'm going to give you probation instead." So that was about a year of my life on probation. And while I was doing so, I met this big Greek chef in Detroit. And what he did was he taught me the fundamentals of the French cuisine. He taught me that it's not practice that makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. And with those lessons, I was able to really get some footing underneath me, have a skill set, and have some leadership qualities that need to be refined. But it got me out of the city and onto different things. I ended up going to school at the Culinary Institute of America, which is in Hyde Park, New York. And I'll never forget going there and realizing that most of the people around me were adequate, right, mediocre. They didn't have a mentor like I had, which really underlined and reinforced this idea that a mentor can make all the difference in your career. So as I was going through the CIA, I said that why not work for the best in the world? Because I feel that it is the best culinary school, and the other students maybe aren't as trained, that I'll shoot for the stars. So I ended up working for this guy named Charlie Trotter, who mentored me and said that you can make anything happen with what you had. And he said that he taught it through different lessons, various lessons that were trying at the moment, but in the long run, you realize mentally that you could do anything with what you had. So I left Trotter's after my apprenticeship and finished school and headed to France, because that's where you go, right? If you want to understand the soul of the cuisine. One thing that kind of dawned on me as I was flying over the Atlantic was that I couldn't read, write, or speak the language, right? I mean, I was going to this place illiterate. And when I landed, I shortly realized that hard work doesn't have a language, that you can really overcome a lot of obstacles, and people can look at you for what you're capable of, and not where you're from or what you look like, through work ethic. And then that lessons of hard work led me all the way up to Paris, into the longest standing Michelin 3-star restaurant. So spent some good time there, and then decided to come back to New York. I wanted to be the best chef in the world, and as we know, the world ends at the Hudson River. And so in Manhattan, I started to cut my teeth in some great restaurants, Le Cirque and Picheline, and I got these phone calls over the course of probably about a 2-month period. One of someone that I was in that kitchen in Detroit with getting murdered, and then the sous chef, who was another one of my mentors, got killed. And it made me realize that I'm here in this great city, working on these wonderful Bonnet ovens, and around people with a lot of means and wealth. And there I was, and I said, look, I got to do something to give this back, because I'm alive, and some others are not. So I went back to school and wrote this business plan called EDWINS. That was 2004. So the whole idea was to take these lessons learned about perfect practice, about hard work not having a language, not really dictating who you are. Your past doesn't dictate who you are. It's your work ethic and where you want to go. And also this idea that you can make it happen with what you have. And those are kind of like the pillars of Edwards that still stand today. That decade journey was very important. You realize how to build something with nothing, and you realize what are really the struggles that people are having. One, including myself. Two, what people are willing to believe in. And as a society for a long time didn't really want to give that second chance to someone coming home from prison. That's again a decade to really crack. The prison program started in 2011. I would go into one institute and teach the basics of culinary arts and hospitality. And then from there, it was the brick and mortar EDWINS Leadership and Restaurant Institute. In 2013, we opened the doors. If you watch the movie Knife Skills, you kind of see this 6-week, 8-week opening of taking people with no experience and opening up a French fine dining restaurant. So it was quite the experience. So what EDWINS is really, it's hope. It's a way for someone to believe that there's a better tomorrow, regardless of your past. And it's a way to achieve it, because it's a real thing that we do here. It's not just a make-believe fantasy. So what we do for 6 months is train someone to the top in culinary arts and hospitality. We are showing someone that if you buy into a system and a winning culture, and then you sacrifice, you can become who you want to be, right? Whatever that is, and wherever you want to go. We teach each position through this business. So over the 6 months, along with business basics, you get training in hosting, serving, bartending, every station throughout the kitchen, and you're left with this perspective of the whole industry. You may not be a master in it, right? It's only 6 months, but you certainly understand how it moves, how you need to move, and then you have a roadmap of how to move up. You also get a lot of support along the way. So we have, I hate that term case manager, but it's what people relate with. I've got someone here who looks out for someone's needs outside of the academic part. And so vacating a warrant, helping get a child back from a partial custody, how to realign something in your life that you want realigned. That exists. We demand that you have a bank account or an ID and healthcare within the first 3 weeks. So we're trying to set you up for a professional future. Right? It's not some fly-by-night that's just limping by. We want you to be strong and secure. And what happens over these 6 months is really, someone becomes empowered. The dignity is built. That esteem is raised, and that's probably the hardest thing to do in this 6 month period. There's also housing. So in 2015, we built housing, and so someone has access here now to a free home while they're going through the program. Relatively free. You pay utilities. We also have graduate housing. We have a fitness center and library, test kitchen, basketball course. There's a whole campus you can really study and learn if you choose to. This past year opened up the butcher shop, and that's another way to increase the way that we teach. Right, someone goes through this program for 2 weeks. They get their the fundamentals of butchery. Right, you learn how to make sausages, how to smoke, how to cure, how to make some charcuterie. But it's in a very focused environment where you're surrounded by meat all day. It's not like you're in a restaurant and you have a strip loin in front of you. You cut it and you serve it. I mean, you're really taking it off the animal. You're seeing every use for that particular beast. So it's really sweet. The bakery is the next idea to hopefully come to fruition, this year, early next. We do a lot more consulting lately, and that entails writing business plans and showing others how to connect their social mission with some sort of enterprise that can provide employment. So there's a lot more of growth that's going on, and the growth is fueled by our graduates. So 50% of this organization's management or hourly wages is graduates. When we do these other projects, we have graduates leading them. So it's really about taking that next step for those that are invested in us to help become better. So the future looks, continue to push that growth, to continue building the best culinary school that can exist. Because we were very conscious of the fact that we have to be twice as good to be considered equal because of our past. So there's an element of taking the space to it. The space isn't given to us. The space really has to be taken still. Although we do a great job in the French cuisine, people still, some people still look at us as discounted. Well, you've been in prison, maybe you're not as good, or because we always continue to overperform, take the space that we want to swim in. No one's saying, hey, here's $1 million, go do this. We have to really get aggressive. That's kind of like in a nutshell what the story of Edwin's, how it works to this day, and also how I hope for it to evolve. And if we do it right, we hit it right. And next thing you know, what we've done is change this face of reentry, or what the perception of someone coming home looks like, right? Not just in color, or just your flesh, but what does this look like? What does the spirit look like? Because it's important to believe in where you can go, and not continue to be condemned from where you came from. So that's the future. That's a couple lifetimes. This isn't something that's going to happen in one lifetime, which is why at the inception I wanted this to be a nonprofit. It's got to outlive me or generations of us, so to make the difference that's capable of making.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? I have a few, but I just wanted to open it up to anyone else who might have a question for Brandon. And be sure to unmute yourself, please.
I have a question.
Yeah, Christina.
Is there any individual story that spoke out to you the most out of being in the program?
No. I mean, we have now 286 graduates. We'll probably be at 300. How many, Johnny, after this class?
Around 300.
Yeah,
we have 14 going through.
Yeah, so we're going to be almost at 300 graduates in 2 weeks. And I mean, I can't think of I just can't do that. I just can't. It's very hard to say that this program, because everyone comes with different odds against them. And everyone perseveres, and everyone's overcoming. Everyone's courageous. I mean, it's so hard to say there's one story where someone just oof. But I mean, you can imagine that some of the toughest stories, and then they overcome and they complete the program, and they have 3-4 dozen employers waiting to hire them. Some people have, their dream has been to open a hot dog cart, right? And they achieved that dream, right, with our network, and they were able to do that. Someone to have their own place, which they did, and some people are just very happy being a good family member, and working a job at a hotel in a kitchen. So there's so many people done great things. I really can't think of one.
Perfect. Thank you. Jermaine, did you have a question? And be sure to unmute yourself if you do. My question.
Sorry.
Joanne, is that you?
Yes, sorry, I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I missed it, but I was just wondering how people get recommended to the program.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'll take you through kind of like the past, present, and future. So when it first began, you got here, John? Sorry. When it first began, it was about starting to teach in prisons is helpful, because you start to develop an undercurrent within an institution that spreads to other institutions. It was about working with probation officers and judges. It was about going to shelters and courtrooms and churches, or anyone who would listen. I mean, this is literally like a missionary. I mean, it was nonstop, just beating the drum, getting out there, and like again, in knife skills, you'll see the class size that we began with. It's over 100 people, and no one knew what to expect, including some of ourselves. I knew there'd be success, but who knows how we were going to get there, right? Exactly how. And now it's a lot different, with the national press we've received, major national shows, from the Times to the Post to the Irish Times to being to the Oscars. I mean, now there's much more of a presence out there for those who are incarcerated, or families who have been incarcerated. Now it's much more global. So we get a lot more people from around the country, and we have to do less of that work to push and promote it. It's kind of self-promoting. Still, I think the strongest network is inside the prisons. We now have, we call them culinary clubs in 13 different Ohio prisons. Our network of 300 grads, they talk. Our network of over 400 grads in prison, they talk. And so now it's kind of like this self-perpetuating, a word that gets spread. However, we still have to get inside of our local halfway houses. Their staff turnover is so high. Sometimes people get sentenced to a stint there, and then they bypass one of our prisons that we have a presence in. So there's still work we have to do, but it's nowhere nearly as active as it was in the past. The church community has been great, spreading the word. We just try to hit those pressure points to make sure people know where they're aware of us. But it's a lot more natural now.
Great. I have a couple.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a couple questions. So you mentioned a few times a network, and you obviously have talked about all the different pieces that come together for this institute to work. I was curious if you work with different restaurants as well for like placement for your members to kind of get jobs afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
If there's like a system in that regard, or if they kind of just go on their own at that point and find jobs themselves.
No. I mean, we made the connection. You see, that's, as you see, John. That's John over there. That's John. John kind of he leads that charge. I mean, part of his job and others on staff it's really more about job. Not job placement. That's kind of like square peg, round hole. It's more about career development, right? Where do you want to go? We have over 3-4 dozen jobs on a waiting list to hire. It's not like we have to actively get out there and say, hey, hire our people, hire this, do that. It's not like people are coming to us. They hold job fairs on our grounds, which is nice. But it's really important that someone's career evolves and develops to where they want to go. And if we can put that on the right curve as their next step out of here, and then that's really where the value of what we do and where it's at.
And then my other question was, I was just out of curiosity if there is a reason you guys created this institute in Ohio versus I think you had mentioned at the time you were in New York at a restaurant working when you kind of came up with the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very as a simple thinker. Right? I mean, maybe there's some things that are complex to the whole. If you look at it, the approach is very simple, and this has never been done before, right? So I mean, there's no model. Like, what do you do? How do you do it? So when I was writing the business plan in 2004, I just went and looked back to the year that I graduated high school, which was 1998, and I said, well, who maybe struggled like I struggled in 1998. And so I went to the statistics and found the worst high school graduation rate was here in Cleveland, Ohio. And I said, well, that makes sense. Just go there and do it. I learned in Europe, especially these great restaurants, that human beings are real. I mean, they're kind of idiotic, right? I mean, they hear about something that's excellent, and then they'll take boats and trains and donkeys and whatever it takes to get to this place to taste excellence. So I didn't have any doubts that wherever it was going to work, right? I just believed in it that much, and that's why Cleveland was the city. Yeah.
Great. Are there any other questions for Brandon? Perfect. Well, thank you once again, Brandon, for being here with us today. And for the rest of our members, our next meeting will be April 4th at 6 p.m. with guest speaker Gator Halperin, who will speak to us about Coral Vita, a company whose mission is to restore the world's degraded and threatened reefs using land-based coral farming. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you in a few weeks. That concludes Big West Rotaract's 8th meeting of its first year. Meeting adjourned. Thanks.